Hello guys, so this will be our last lesson plan for our last look into our unit sculpture, form, and proportion. Before starting off anything else and before introducing you guys to the activity for today, I will be looking over 3 artists for today. They are very important, so we do need to take out our sketchbooks, our pens, our markers, our pencils, anything to jot down notes, because these 3 artists will be very important for creating your own design, because we will be making our own sculptures today and we will be drawing inspiration from these. So I do highly recommend that you guys jot down notes for each artist, and I also do recommend you guys do your own research on these artists, because there's so much more that these artists have to show. I have picked out some examples, but there's so many more examples and so many other things that you guys could draw inspiration from, so I definitely encourage that. But for now, we will be looking at our artists, which are Jeff Koons, Yayoi Kusama, and Claes Oldenburg. And as we look through these artists, I want us to keep in mind how these artists use form and proportion to transform everyday objects into powerful works of art. What decisions do these artists make when adapting real-life objects into sculptural forms, and how can we apply those strategies to our own original work? And then how can we take inspiration from other artists without directly copying their artwork? So as we have those questions in mind, let's go and view these artists' work. So starting off with Jeff Koons, I have picked out 3 sculptures of his. The first one is called Balloon Dog, and it is a blue inflatable balloon dog. And as we can see, or if you guys search it up, if you guys can see it through the PowerPoint, the balloon dog is completely massive. It is huge. Something Koons is very well known for is for blowing up proportions and playing around with proportions overall. And we can see that through his other 2 sculptures in here as well, called Lobster and the sculpture Play-Doh. These are huge sculptures based off of very nonchalant, everyday objects that we wouldn't categorize as art, but are also massively produced. So he also works with that theme of mass production. But when talking about artistically, again, he plays around with proportion by specifically blowing up proportion, making things 10 times the size that they originally are. He also plays a lot with the color he chooses. He chooses really vibrant and bright colors. He also uses a lot of shine within his sculptures, as we can see through the balloon dog and the lobster. Shine is very important because he really likes giving the visual aesthetic of inflatables and weightlessness. And those are some characteristics you can definitely incorporate within your own. Although Jeff Koons does blow up proportion, we can do that ourselves by picking out very small everyday objects, like for example, let's say we would get a thumbtack and we will blow it up like 10 times using our bar of soap, or we can just focus on his use of color and his use of shine and his visual use of creating the illusion of weightlessness. But again, he uses proportion, he blows up proportion, and he also uses form by creating very geometric and balanced form and shape, 3D shape. Going on to our second artist, Yayoi Kusama. She is a Japanese artist, and she is mainly known as the Dot Lady because one of her like sign-offs, or one of her like artistic, like you can tell if it's her work through dots. She uses a lot of dots, as we can see. She is again known as the Dot Lady. Every artwork that you see of hers will incorporate the usage of dots, from really big dots to very small dots, so you can definitely incorporate that into your own artwork. When talking about proportion, she also blows up proportion, as we can see again through the images. The images include people who go and see the sculpture, and we can see just how big the sculpture is compared to the people going to see it. So the scale is, she blows up the scale of these objects, right? And you guys again can work with that. You guys can work with the dots. She also uses form a lot. The only sculpture in here that does have like a definite form that is very real life based is the pumpkin, but even then the form she uses in the pumpkin is very organic. It is not a straightforward like pumpkin with symmetrical bumps. It has very organic shapes that are asymmetrical. Going on to the dancing pumpkin sculpture, the form within itself, it looks like, I see it as a very chubby pumpkin spider with dots. Because the tentacles or the legs that she uses for the dancing pumpkin, the form within it is not symmetrical. She goes from like really heavy at the tentacle or like the leg part, and then it goes skinnier as it joins the body. The shine of life, she uses a lot of tentacles there too, and the way she uses form, it's not just your everyday or ordinary tentacle you would see, but she really plays around with the form of it. By creating more spirals and by creating a lot of movement. And she also manipulates form by using the dots, so that's definitely some aspects you guys can incorporate into your own artwork. Going on to the third, Claes Oldenburg. So Claes Oldenburg is really known for, again, blowing up proportion like every other artist, or the other two artists I have mentioned, but he's also really known for using absolute everyday objects. As we can see here, his sculptures involve the image of an apple core, a spoon with a cherry, and the little balls that you use for badminton. And again, he blows up the proportions as well. We can see that the Shutterstock specifically sculpture, or like the ball you use for badminton, it is like 3 times the size of an average human being. The spoon is like absolutely huge. I think it's like even, it's more big within length, or I guess width rather than height. But overall, he also blows up. The apple core is also like the size, twice the size of like an average human being. But he really likes blowing up proportion. He uses very flat colors, and he uses a lot of geometric shapes as well, and symmetry. And he really sticks to the form of an object. He doesn't mess around with it. He doesn't really manipulate it. He just blows up the proportion, and he, if anything, he emphasizes the direct observation that he took from it by using flat surfaces, and thus not manipulating the form anymore, rather just manipulating the shape. So we can also incorporate a lot of that into our own work. Again, blowing up proportion, but specifically using flat colors and not manipulating the image within itself. Those are some things that we can definitely incorporate into our own. And again, this is overall a very basic overview of these artists. I do recommend you guys go and do your own research, and I do recommend you guys just look more into their artworks, because there's a lot of things that they have to show, and the information I gave y'all is enough, but you could definitely look more into it so you guys can see or choose something that you guys might like. So why are we looking at these artists and why are they important? That is because today for class we will be creating an soap sculpture based on a personal everyday object that incorporates at least one element from one artist without directly copying their work. So what do I mean by this? We will be choosing one everyday object that you guys have. You will be choosing one artist and one of their key characteristics, and you will be creating your own design of that everyday object, but still getting inspiration from one of the artists. So for example, let's say I get an AirPod case and I blow it up like twice the size and I put a whole bunch of polka dots in it. That's my own everyday object that is taking inspiration from Yayoi Kusuma by implementing the use of dots that she uses into my own, but still keeping it original without copying her work. So our learning objectives for today will be, we will be able to recall and identify key stylistic characteristics from the artists that we discussed, and we will design our own original soap sculpture, as I said, with the criteria that I just gave y'all. We will be demonstrating proper carving techniques and safe tool handling using the subtractive method when working with our soap sculpture. So we will be carving into soap. I have all the materials you need within your groups. These are carving tools, and although they are non-sharp, they can still hurt people, so I don't want to see you guys running around with them. I don't want to see you guys playing around with them. I don't want to see y'all running at each other with them. These carving tools will stay at your desk and will only touch the desk and the soap. And we will be carving, I will later on, once we get into it, once everybody's ready to start carving, I will be going into a demo. But we always carve away from ourselves, never towards ourselves. I'm going to start saying that now. I also don't want anybody touching any of the carving tools until we are ready to start carving. And then at the end of this lesson, we will demonstrate an understanding. We will be able to demonstrate and understand copyright and public domain by creating an original soap sculpture that ethically adapts stylistic elements from Koons, Kusama, or Oldenburg. Again, I do not want to see a balloon dog. I don't want to see direct copying of Jeff Koons. I don't want to see a blue balloon dog. Or you guys turning in a blue balloon dog sculpture. I don't. I want you guys to draw inspiration, but keep it original to yourselves, okay? And yeah, that's about it for today. If you guys have any questions, by the end of this class, I do want you guys to have a finalized sketch. The sketch should have the everyday object you have chosen, the artist you have chosen, and what stylistic characteristic from the artist's style of art you will be implementing into your artwork. I want that by the end of class today, and if you finish your sketch early, I need to see it, give you the go-ahead before you start carving. Nobody should start carving without my go-ahead. But I do encourage you guys to take your time on the sketch, do your research, and yeah, this is due by the end of class.